This is the second part of task 1A regarding style sheets, and what we're going to do now is look at the styles that we need to actually create. Well, if we have a look at the question, it tells us a few things that we need to know. We can see here that we're going to have a hyperlinks area. We can see here that we're going to have our main content area, and we can see here that we're going to have some sort of heading or title area. We can also see that we're going to be having some text in this area here, in the hyperlinks area, some text in the home page area, and that it's all of a particular font, which is Comic Sans, so we can use that as a starting point. And we can then see that we need to have some headings, and we also need to have hyperlinks and visited hyperlinks. So these are basically the styles that we are going to create. So now it's time to actually create those styles. So we'll click on the cascading style sheet button, and next to the little paint pot here, if we click on the drop down arrow, you can see we can create a new style rule. Now the style rules for the layout are all of the same type, and that is style applied to an elements of class. So for each one of those we're going to select this option. So I'm going to start off by creating a title style, and we'll populate all the information that goes in it later. Then we're going to do exactly the same for hyperlinks, and again exactly the same for main sort of like content area, which I'm going to call main. The next thing that we're going to do is create a style for our headings. So I'm going to go to here and style rule. Now this time you can see here style element applied to all elements of type, and if I choose from the drop down list I've got heading 1. So I'm going to use H1 because that's a standard tag to use within HTML for websites. Now we also need our hyperlinks, and the reason for this is because we're going to be using a dark background, the hyperlinks wouldn't normally show up, and so we need to add in some rules for the hyperlinks so that they actually show up properly, because they won't follow any other rules that we might set. So again we're going to go for a style rule, but this time we choose a custom style rule, and you can see here that we've got a link, that's for your hyperlinks. And then the other one that you'll need is a visited. Let's go to custom style rule in order to get it. A visited, and that will create the one for the links that you visit. Now if you're thinking, well, what do I actually do here where I need to have white text, and here where I need to have black text? Well, that's fine because we'll actually set those within the areas themselves. Let's now start to look at actually setting up these styles. So we're going to start with the main style, which is this one here for the main area. And so if we click on that, you can now see there are different options that we can choose across the top. And we're going to start by looking at the actual area size itself. So we're going to click on box, and you can see here that it needs to be 650 pixels wide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose here a width. Okay, and we're going to do it in pixels, and we need it to be 650. Okay, now we don't need a height because that can continue for forever or for as long as the content is. But what we do actually need to do, because it needs to go next to the hyperlinks page, we need to make sure that it's able to float. So what we do is we select under float left, which sounds a bit strange because it's going to be on the right hand side, but it's what needs to be done to make it float alongside the hyperlinks area. Now we need to set up all of our text. So if we go to the text area, we can see we need to use Comic Sans. So I'm still in main, and I'm going to text now, and we're going to use a predefined font or a custom font in fact, which will be Comic Sans. So we'll scroll down until we find that. There it is. And then we need to set our font size to be 16 pixels. And notice I'm highlighting these things as I go along. It's a really good thing that you can do to make sure that you have covered all the requirements and that you will have actually highlighted everything to show that you've done it. And then when you have done it, double check by highlighting them in a different color or crossing them out. Notice that it's pixels, PX, and not points. And our color we're going to set to black. Okay, so click on OK and you should see now it says there black. We also need to set the background color because it says that we need to have, well, we've done black text, so let's say that we've done that, and then we need a yellow background. So under background, click on here and I'll select yellow. Click on OK and go back to general, and we can now see everything that we've set up. So there's our width, the float, the font family, the font size, and the background color. So you can actually then use that to check off whether you've done all of the things. So now we've completed the main area, we can now have a look at the hyperlinks area, and we're basically going to follow through a very similar process. So what we're going to do then is have a look at exactly what is needed here, and we can see that the hyperlinks need to be 150 pixels wide. So we'll go to box and we'll select here 150 px. We also need this to float left because it needs to go next to this one. So we'll change our float to be float left, and that allows it to go alongside. Now we're told that the background color needs to be blue. So let's go to background and we can select a color of blue. Now, it doesn't say a specific encoding that we've got to use, so we'll just go for any blue here. If we were given a specific hex code, we would need to use that. Our text needs to be white, Comic Sans, and 16 pixels. So let's do all of those things. So we'll change our text to white. We'll use the family of Comic Sans, and our size needs to be 16 px for pixels. And if we go to general, we can see all those things that have been set, and if we have a look at main, we can see how those are set differently. But of course what we can do now is double check that everything that we wanted from here has actually been done. Now if you haven't been given a diagram like this, you can see how useful creating the diagram is in understanding how to actually go about setting up your page layout. So we'll do the final area, which is the title area now, and we can see that needs to be 800 pixels wide. It needs to have the heading style and a yellow background. So we'll start off with the box, which needs to be 800 pixels. We don't need a float this time because it's going to be on its own at the top. Its background color is going to be yellow, so we'll change that here to be yellow, and if we do this one, it will be the same yellow as previously for the main content area. And next we need to look at the text. Well, we're told that it needs to be of a heading style, Comic Sans, 32 pixels, and bold. So we'll go for our font family of Comic Sans again. We'll go for 32 pixels. This won't have actually set it to be black, so we just need to make sure that we do that. So I'll select black and then it will set it properly. And our font weight here will be bold. Okay. So if we go back to general, we can just check that we've done all of those things. You might think, well, where does it tell you what color to use? Well, I'm basing this on the fact that the main font color is black and we haven't been told to use any other color, so we should follow that basic rule there. Now, the title area isn't the only place we're going to use headings, so we're probably also going to use them on the home page. So we need to set up our H1 style. I'm just going to clear what I've done before so that it's completely fresh plate. And what we need to do is we can see that black and Comic Sans will already be picked up from the main area here. So the differences that we're going to have is that the font size will be 32 point and that the weight will be bold. So if I now go back to general, you can see that those two things have been set, but it will pick up everything else from the main area anyway. The other two styles that we need to sort out are the hyperlinks. So we need a link and we need a visited. Now they will pick up again anything that's standard in this area here, but we need to change the color so they use white instead of using the standard blue and purple. So I'm just going to go to text here and change the color to white, and a visited, and change that color to white also. We'll just check on general. Has it done those? Yeah, and everything else is still there. So I shall click on OK and save again, and we now know that our style sheet has been saved and that it will link to our web page.